This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to your live safari. Hello and good afternoon everybody, welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is Steve and I'm joined by BK on camera, and very good welcome and good afternoon. Kids, please send through your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear from you this afternoon. We have found a couple of buffaloes. I heard them from camp. He might be a better bet, BK. 12 o'clock. Two grumpy buffalo bulls hanging around here. I thought maybe we were going to find our herd of buffalo. I heard a "Mah," that sort of noise that buffalo do when they push each other around. But we found two. These are grumpy old dugger boys, you call them, old grumpy retired bulls that hang out on their own. And, well, they're probably going to drink because it's starting to warm up. We've had 2 days of clouds and rain, and it is a wonderful 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The light is back, peeking through the clouds. These are the most wonderful days. Oh, he's not a very happy chap. Okay, well, we were trying to get him for that opening scene, but they weren't playing game, everybody. They weren't being very friendly. So we're going to carry on and go check our watering holes. Okay, very good. Well, Trish is out. She's on the move, and she's got something small to show you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have the most chilled out Steenbok out on quarantine. Now, this guy has been here quite often, and each time we see him, he is very, very chilled out. That's very nice because often they scoot away too quickly. Hi everyone, my name is Trishal and I've got Davy on camera this afternoon. It's a lovely afternoon. It's starting to clear finally from all the cloudiness we've been having. And the Steenbok, I think, is also pretty happy about this weather. And that's because it's so small. It gets really cold easily, but it also heats up quite easily. So there it is, going after some low vegetation. Scratch, scratch. I love when antelope scratch their faces with their back hooves. Just gorgeous. Now, this is one of the smallest antelope we get out here. In fact, it's the smallest we have here in Djuma. They're only about 11 kgs, so they're tiny. And their heads can only lift up to less than a meter, so they go after quite short vegetation. Now, Steve is having a look at the water holes today. I think that's a good idea, so I'm going to head off to Chitwa, where there's a very big water hole. But this little one, they actually don't need a lot of water, and you don't often see them visiting watering holes. Davy, there's a vervet monkey right behind it.
What do you say?
A vervet monkey, but it's walked off. Well, I'm going to head off to Chitwa now and leave this little guy to keep on eating.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond and Ngala. My name is Eric, and behind camera, as always, is Owen. We've started off really nicely this afternoon with this beautiful big elephant bull. he's not the only one around. There's actually a few different elephant bulls that are scattered over the maybe about 400 or 500 meters apart, and they are spending a lovely cool afternoon feeding along this riverbank. And this one we've actually just seen, he's only just moved off from the tree that he was feeding on for about 5 minutes or so, but he was enjoying his tree so much, and there was just this one little branch that was just out of reach for him, even with his trunk stretched as high as he possibly could. And so what he actually did is he went down on his back knees and he lifted up with his front left leg, and he reached and he just managed to grab the very tip of the branch, and he snapped it off like that. And it's the first time I have ever seen anything like an elephant feed like that before, so that was very, very cool. We've been spending some time with him, hoping that he'll be doing the same. At the moment he's got his face buried in a big buffalo thorn, and so he doesn't really need to reach high at all to move around a lot. But he is going to pass through a gap, so I'll quickly see if I can reverse. Let's see, maybe, I mean, we can just show you the other ones. They are a little bit hided. Felix from St. John's College is asking what my plan is, and I want to show you as many animals as possible, obviously. Now, we have actually come down into this nice big Timbavati riverbed, and we are checking for a number of different things. We weren't that successful this morning. I'll just give you a quick little show as to where we are. So we spent the morning around this area over here. Tracks of the Pride of Lions basically went from this waterhole up into this area, and they haven't come out yet. So we're wanting to come back into that area later when the Pride might be a little bit more active. We are now somewhere around here, just driving the riverbed. We're on a late afternoon river cruise, and we're just going to see whatever we can find for at least the next 45 minutes or so. And then after that, we'll start heading back into that area. So things that we might be looking out for is nice big elephants like this. Maybe even, oh, this elephant's coming down, it looks like. Look at the gradient that this elephant is navigating to come down into the river. Clara Delilah is asking why this elephant is by itself. And Clara, it's by itself, and we can't see any elephants around it. But we've just seen that one with slightly bigger tusks, which is directly behind us. We've just seen this one now, who's buried itself completely in the bushes. And if we were to go upstream the river, so behind us, we saw at least 2 or 3 more. So there are actually a few other elephants, and they're all big adult males. Just look at the gradient that this guy's coming down. I mean, controlling 5,000 kilograms must be quite hard on such a steep gradient. And he's chosen the hardest pathway ever to come down. So Clara, oh, there is a hyena coming right past us, Owen. See, right here. There's lots happening around this one little area. This hyena's right over here. So some of the viewers apparently are asking about camouflage, and this hyena is the perfect example. So if you look at the coat of the hyena, and if you look at the color of the sand, they're very, very, very similar, which means that this hyena's coat is very camouflaged for the river. And camouflage is just basically a way of hiding from something, and it usually is for predators. They like to be camouflaged so they can sneak up to their prey for as long as possible. This hyena is brave. I mean, that elephant is very close by, and there's another one straight ahead. So something must have happened. I mean, it's unusual. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've seen now 2 hyenas walking around, both heading in the same direction. Owen's reminding me, we actually did see one just as we left camp, so that's 3 hyenas. And so what we'll be looking for now is just the way that they behave. It almost looks like they're just moving from one spot to another. If they were following the scent of another predator, their head would be down on the ground. They'll be following the trail that these predators leave behind. But this one seems to just be following the other one, and it's coming right up to us. So I'm not going to move. We'll just sit quietly. We'll pass straight past us, just like we were not even here. Almost tripped into the hole. We've got such an incredible shot here. We might have a hyena sleeping with an elephant feeding right next to it. Let's see if we can get that in one shot. And how funny is it that these hyenas have decided to lie down exactly... You okay there, Owen? Exactly where this elephant is. You would think that this elephant, seeing these hyenas, would probably want to chase them away. But it's not the case. I guess this elephant knows these hyenas aren't really a threat to it. And look how amazing this is. They are literally less than 10 meters apart from one another. And it's like if an elephant were to see a different predator, wild dogs, lions, leopard, their behavior changes a lot. Their ears come out, they try and be intimidating. I'm surprised that it's acted like it hasn't really acknowledged these hyenas. See that one there that's in frame, had its head up, it was sniffing around a little bit more. This one's still relaxing in the riverbed. It's so interesting, and that's the really cool thing about coming out in the bush. It's just, you see these animals and you see these interesting interactions that you wouldn't necessarily think would happen. I mean, I would have told you that this elephant would have chased the hyenas away, and they were standing literally 10 meters apart, not doing anything with one another. See, this hyena's grooming itself a lot, and I thought I saw a wound, yes. So at the very, very edge of its tail there, it's just shifted around. It's actually licking it now. And so there's a small little wound there. It doesn't look like it's anything too serious. Yuval, 9 years old, all the way from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You're asking if hyenas and elephants fight, and I think sometimes they will, especially if the hyenas are hungry. And what might happen is if these hyenas are around a female with a really small one, maybe that elephant will feel protective and try and defend its youngster, and they'll do that by chasing these hyenas off. I suppose an elephant as big as this realizes that these hyenas don't pose a threat to it at all, so they're happy to let one another pass each other without anything happening. But I mean, like I was saying, I would have thought that this hyena would have chased, or at least the elephant would have chased the hyena away. We are going to watch those hyenas. They both walked past our vehicle and they've moved up onto the bank. And so we might just change our plans slightly. Instead of taking an afternoon river cruise, we might just go onto the bank itself to drive and see if we can see what these hyenas are doing out and about so early on. It could just be the weather. Maybe they just feel comfortable enough to get an early start to the day. Or maybe they had a late end to the morning and they're returning back towards some sort of communal area. Okay, yeah, so unfortunately Rebecca didn't quite hear exactly where we're going to, but we'll send you across to a slightly different reserve for them to say good afternoon to everyone. And in the meantime, let's hope that these hyenas bring us something special.
Thanks, Eric. A river cruise sounds fantastic. Well, everyone, we found those 2 grumpy buffalo bulls. Well, they were actually part of the herd. We heard some branches and some moo, which is the noise that they make. It's almost like they're going move as they push each other around. And we're very close to a large watering hole. And the herd is drunk, of course. And now they're coming down to do something known as bedding down. And because it's still a pretty overcast afternoon and it's not very warm, we'll find them actually doing so in the middle of the sun, or well, in the open, without being in the shade. If it was a hot day, they'd all be doing so underneath the shade. And you can see that what they're doing is they're busy chewing. Now, if you're watching the show this morning, I was talking about the wildebeest chewing and how ruminants, which are cows, buffalo, most of the hooved animals, the 2-hooved animals, the cloven-hooved animals, they do what we call ruminating. Not all of them, because warthog is not included. But the benefit is that they can feed a short period of time, and then they can go and sit down when it's hot or uncomfortable, and they can just do this, sit and regurgitate the food and chop it up very finely. If you watched my segment 2 days ago with buffalo poo, buffaloes are very bad at reducing the amount of water they give off in their dung, so they have to drink quite regularly. Drinking regularly, eating regularly, spending lots of time in the shade when possible. Their movements are normally quite easy to determine. They won't move very far. But we like to find buffalo. I love talking about buffalo, but it's also because you never know when you might find some lions. I love enjoying the smell of buffalo, as do we. So he's busy masticating the food, chewing it and breaking it up very finely. The saliva is filled with microorganisms to help that food be broken down quite nicely. Well, from these very large ruminants sitting in the shade to the tallest ruminant of them all.
Welcome to Pridelands, everybody. It's such a wonderful afternoon here. It's a little bit on the gloomy side, and we are staring at a giraffe as it munches away. Isn't that awesome? What a great way to start the afternoon. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert. And like I said, we are sitting here at Pridelands, which is part of the Greater Kruger ecosystem and part of Tswalu Game Reserve, which is very exciting. So we just stopped to have a quick look at this giraffe, but we are actually in search of elephants. But it is a really nice view from here, and I don't know if you can see it, but the Drakensberg Mountains, which is our biggest mountain range, is in the distance, but it is covered by lots and lots of clouds today. We've had some very miserable weather over the last few days, but finally no wind, which is good enough for me. Isn't that lovely? There are actually a whole bunch of giraffe, but you can't see them. They're hiding in and amongst the trees, and they were just at the eco-training camp. They had a drink. They got chased around by the elephants, and now they've come to feed in this thicket. You can see they're having a good time. But like Steve said, the tallest of the ruminants. And if you watch carefully, you might be able to see that bolus of leaves come back up. Did you see that? Now I believe that Eric was talking about camouflage and animals a little bit earlier, and you can see how the coloration of the southern giraffe blends in very nicely with the leaves that are turning yellow this winter. Oh, isn't that awesome? It's actually such a nice view, and it's really nice. You can see how the bush is starting to thin out as we go into dry season. All the gaps in between and the distance underneath all the trees, it's becoming a lot easier to see around. Look at that. It's incredible, though. That giraffe's body has almost completely disappeared. You can just see its head. What are you doing with your tongue? Did you see that? It stuck its tongue out a little bit. It must have had a bit of a thorn or something caught on its lip. It was slightly uncomfortable. Also looks like it has a kink in its neck. But not doing too much feeding right now, just focusing on the digestive process that ruminants have to go through on a daily basis. Regurgitate the food, chew it, and then swallow it again. Pranav, if you've got a ruler nearby, I would grab that ruler, because a giraffe's tongue is even longer than that. So it's about 45 centimeters in length. So if you take your ruler and then take another half of it and add that onto the initial ruler's length, that's how long it is. But we don't always get to see the whole tongue. And they don't always stick it out either. They either use it to clean their nose, which we were lucky enough to see, and then when they're trying to feed up on the really tall branches, they'll stretch it out. That's quite entertaining, is to watch a giraffe feed on a tree that's taller than it. Then you really get an idea of how they can feed on branches that no other animals can feed on. Except the elephants, because they'll just push those trees down and then munch on them. But that really is such a beautiful shot. You might also be able to hear some helicopters in the distance. It is quite loud. They're doing some work in the sky not too far from here. And there we go. The giraffe using its tongue to clean its nose once more.
Good afternoon to everyone from another beautiful day out here in the Kalahari at Tswalu. Jandre's on camera as always, not missing a thing. My name's Dylan, for those of you who haven't met us yet. Just join us this afternoon. Again, I've got nothing in particular planned. We have got some tracking teams out. We'll just see what they come up with. I've just asked the gents if they can go out and just see whatever they can find for us. But yeah, it's just going to be a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. Look at this. I mean, you don't need words to describe. In fact, words don't do it justice. So I think, we're just going to carry on heading down towards the mountains over here, and then we're going to swing sort of north into these open grasslands, and just see what we can get. And please feel free to engage us, ask questions, give comments, whatever you want. We're really, really open for it. And if people are laughing at me, I'm wondering why. And can anyone spot anything strange on me? I'm not. What's wrong? Jandre's chuckling there. Is there something I don't know about? I think let's head over to Steve while I try to figure out what's going on. I think he's got some buffalo.
Thanks, Dylan. Let us know what insect you've got on your head. We are still here with our little herd of buffaloes. These two youngsters are practicing their fighting skills with their horns. The rest of the herd is bedding down, as we said before. Ooh, can you hear that? Horns clashing. Hello, Emily from Johannesburg. You want to know why are birds sitting on the buffalo? Well, there's one over there, BK. Can you see her? She's just behind this one. Whole lot of birds on that one. Emily, those birds are called ox peckers. Now, they are a type of bird that feeds almost exclusively on ticks. And what those birds are doing right now is they're combing, that's called the red-billed oxpecker there. They're busy combing the buffalo's fur for ticks. Whoopsie, that one's in the way. Holding on and combing the fur. Can you see that? and any ticks or even lice that might be on the buffalo, they will eat. Now, a bird like that can feed on, someone has managed to work it out, 1,500 tick larvae, so those are the small baby ticks, in one day, and 600 to 800 larger ones. Now, how someone's worked that out, they must have gone 1, 2, 3, 4 and fed them. But they're doing a very important job. Ticks transmit disease. Oh, that light is coming through beautifully now. Ticks transmit disease, and they also suck the blood from animals, so ticks can have the potential to make an animal lose condition. So it's important to have animals that are able to sort the buffalo out, and it's a very, very important relationship in nature, whereby the buffalo is benefited because the ticks are removed, and the oxpeckers are benefited because they get some food. Begin this one on the right, scratching his bottom. There's a little one over here who's got itchy bottom. Now, if you've ever been bitten by a tick before, everybody, you know how itchy it gets. Or he's scratching his chest. And tick bites are incredibly itchy, just like mosquito bites. They last about 2 to 3 weeks longer, the itchiness. And the reason it gets itchy is because the tick, as well as the mosquito, puts some substance into your blood to stop it from clotting. Obviously, when we bleed, the red blood cells and the white blood cells come together and they form a coagulant, a form of blood clotting, and the insect's saliva enables that to not clot, and that leads to a side effect of itching. And that little guy is scratching his belly with that branch. Isn't that just, oopsie, now he's scratching the nether regions. Ticks like to go down into the warm parts of the body, between underneath the elbows and inside of the thigh. It's nice and warm. You sometimes can find buffaloes finding a branch that suits the purpose beautifully and scratching and getting that very satisfying look on their face. Shame. It must be unbelievable to have itches everywhere without the ability to scratch with your fingers. I've had many tick bites before, and it can be really, really overwhelming how itchy it gets. So the oxpeckers don't do anything about the itching, I'm afraid. They will also sometimes feed on flies that are hovering around the buffalo, or whatever other animals you might find them on. You find them on a wide variety of antelope. But we're going to stay right here and see what our buffalo get up to. Looks like they're going to be napping, but let's to Dylan and see what insect he found.
So, it turns out that there was in fact something on my head. And the reason I figured that out is as I was driving, I think I'm like walking over the top of my hat, kind of like saying, go left, Joe, go left there. It's like, yeah, it's an armored ground cricket. So well done. We had some people that guessed correctly. There you go. And he seems to be quite content actually staying where he is. There he is. Yeah, so Clara said it was a grey cricket. So Clara, you are correct. It is a grey-coloured cricket. But these ones, we call them armoured ground crickets. And I'll tell you something else interesting about them while we got this little one here. I'm going to try to get as close as I can there. Is that okay like that? Okay. Keep my appendages still. So if you see, he's got those little spiky bits on top. Sorry, Chandra. And they kind of go straight up. So we've got, I'm just going to go back and get him into a better position here. Come on. They are sweet little things. So they've got those spikes that go straight up. And we've got another species that lives here. We call it, the locals all call them armoured ground crickets. But that one is a bigger brown one. And those spikes go out sideways. So we're just going to head over to Trish quickly.
have a bushbuck, everyone. How awesome was this? We don't often see them, or often don't get them on camera. This is very cool. It's actually quite close as well. We're in the Mawati. It's in kind of a red spike thorn house. There's a, I'm so sure there's another one in there. It is lifting its head up, busy browsing. Forward. Another one has just moved out here. Oh, it's a female. She's just run off. So let's stay with our male here. Hello, handsome. Really, really gorgeous. Now, bushbucks can also alarm call, so they're very good indicators of there being a predator of some sort around. In fact, the last time I heard the bushbuck alarming, it was the one in camp. There's a pair in camp, and Tlalamba was nearby, so they were very, very effective. Let's have one last look before we head off.
Okay, there you've actually got a really, really nice view of it, and then I'm going to actually take him off my jacket. But what I was mentioning earlier there is we get another species here, and they all called armored ground crickets. There's no difference between them apart from their appearance and that. Slightly bigger, browner, like a lovely russety brown color, but those spines on the thorax actually go out at right angles to the body. And the local people here, the Tswana people, they actually believe that those ones are incredibly dangerous. If they bite you, you'll die. There is absolutely no truth in that. I've actually tested it on myself, just in case anyone's wondering. And so yeah, there's no difference between these and the other ones, except the fact that those ones are actually very, very rare in these areas. So this little guy is a super common one, and they're super cool. You see, there's no harm there. So I'm actually going to take him, and I'm going to put him down on a tree, and he can live happily ever after. Come, my friend. This one's name is Jandre, by the way. The last one we had, his name was Dylan. So I think head over to Taylor while we're releasing Jandre here. And Taylor has some Ellies. Here you go, goodbye.
Dylan, my heart is filled with joy that you have survived your dangerous cricket encounters, and may you continue to survive them. But we have found the elephants that we were looking for. It is my favorite breeding herd that we get to see here at Pridelands. It's the one with all the little tiny babies. It's very exciting. So they've had a drink already, but now they are grazing and browsing up on this crest. And there is a little calf, but you can't see it just yet. It's sort of huddling next to Mom, but she's going to maybe move out onto the road. You can see, it's just hiding there. And it's actually a very cheeky little elephant, this one. I'm hoping, this is the only time I'll say that, is that we do get a little curious elephant that wants to show us how big and strong it is, because there's honestly nothing better than a cheeky baby. But, oh, hang on. We might have another elephant doing the same thing. We will see. Lily, I'm very lucky to be sitting with my favorite animal. Elephants are by far the most fantastic animal to grace this planet. Well, that's just my opinion anyways, and I get to spend almost every single day with them, and I'm quite happy to do so. Lily, I would love it if you could come and sit with me at Ndlovu Dam, which is the dam just right outside the eco-training camp. And then I could teach you all about elephants, and you can just sit and watch them as they come for a drink, and the little babies chase one another around. Today they were chasing Inyalas around, which is a type of antelope. So that was quite entertaining. And then there was warthogs and impalas and zebra and giraffe. All the animals were at the dam today. But I like every single animal out here, even frogs and ants and butterflies and crickets, like Dylan was showing you. All those kinds of things are really wonderful to see out in the wild. So it's not just the big animals like elephants that are special to see, but we must appreciate all the different animals. Now, if we watch this young calf, it's actually quite funny because it doesn't quite work out what it's supposed to do with its trunk. But we're being interrupted because somebody wants to try and steal the show from us. This young elephant keeps shaking its head at us. But the little elephant is desperately trying to copy Mum and pull little leaves from that tree. But it's not working so well. You see here, we're being photobombed. Hello? Yes, mister? The young elephant bull. But a very young boy. Only, I don't know how old he is. Maybe 5 or 6 years old? Maybe a bit older than that. Just coming to show us that he's going to be the boss one day. Yes, yes, your time will come. We were talking about the cute little elephant. Anyways, we'll continue talking about the cute little elephant. Sometimes elephants can be a bit attention-seeking, as I'm sure you've noticed. But desperately trying to learn the tricks of the trade and how to use that trunk. But not doing so well, I'm afraid. Now it's digging for something. And that's a really nice way to watch elephants and to try and guess their age, is how well can they use their trunks. It normally takes them just over a year to kind of get to grips with it, sometimes a bit longer. So this elephant is definitely not a year just yet. It's still got a little bit of learning to do, really struggling to even find its mouth. Must be quite daunting, though, to have to control this thing on the end of your face that seems to have a mind of its own. You just dropped everything you tried to put in your mouth. And not making life easy by pulling bits of grass out, really trying to just pull those tiny little leaves off. Shame, it's very sweet. There's also the whole herd will come out soon, which I'm excited for. Clara, it's nice to hear from you. Yes, this elephant is probably going to be even more cheeky than the other elephant that we just saw. Oh no, Gert, look what's happened. I have to show you something. So this naughty elephant that has just come to shake his head has now dug out an old water pipe. You see that black thing on the road? I'm going to pick it up. As we drive past, I'll have to open my door. But when this was all old farmland, and obviously this still happens, they use these pipes to obviously get water to the different camps. And because there never used to be elephants on Pridelands, they didn't dig the water pipes very deep because they never had to worry about them. And we know elephants love the freshest of fresh water. So what's happening now is they turn into toys, and anything can be a toy to an elephant. An old tire, a water pipe. If you're unfortunate and drop your wallet out on safari, they'll throw that around too. So I will remove that. I was carrying it around just now. But we see them playing with all sorts of things. So that's quite funny. But that's normally what you see on safari. It's a never-ending story of, if it was an old farm, of picking up all the pipes that the elephants will dig up from the ground, literally. I wonder where he got that from. But I'm going to sit here patiently and wait for these elephants to come on out. In the meantime, I'm going to go and pick up that pipe.
Good luck with that, Taylor. Thankfully, our buffalo aren't doing anything destructive, just doing what buffalo do best. It's hard to tell exactly how many are here. It's definitely more than 10. See, always a good assumption. You can't count. The numbers are too large. More than 10. Here is an old female. You can see that she's got a bit of fur missing on the face. Her skin is a bit threadbare. The horns are well worn on the top. Sad sounds, everybody. I apologize. Just see her in comparison to the one on the right there. Not that one. Little bit. Much cleaner. Good condition. Younger. Her share of oxpeckers as well. Okay, we're going to send you over to Taylor while I figure out what's going on with my mic back.
Now, something that Steve is never accused of as being loud, but apologies for the technical difficulties we've had. But don't worry, we've got elephants to make up for it. We've also rescued the black plastic pipe from the elephants. It's now in the car, so you don't have to worry about that either, in case you were panicked. But like I said, they find all sorts of things. Actually, a friend of mine sent me a picture of an elephant's tusk. So you know how we sometimes see elephants with broken bits off of their tusks? Sometimes when the bulls fight, they get quite aggressive. And this particular elephant on this reserve has got enormous tusks. And he broke it completely, like quite a bit of it off a couple of months ago. And they found it. There was a young bull that was playing with it. So everyone was quite relieved. So sometimes we find these things out in the bush. Hello, little elephant. Yes, you're very brave, but you're hanging very close to Mom. No, not the bravest little elephant that we've seen. Mom just sort of guiding it. She's not perturbed by us being around here at all. Now, this is actually would have been a very popular spot, because just hidden away is this beautiful pan, but unfortunately it's all dried up now. Look how lovely this area is with the marula trees and the big knob thorns. And just at the back you can see the sort of dark soil. It's quite I would imagine it's maybe started off as a mud wallow and buffalo and rhinos and all sorts of things. And came around here and it just got bigger and bigger over the years. And now it's formed this lovely sort of pan. And I think things like rhinos, buffalo, warthogs, pretty much every single day in a rainy season would come to this area, which is very cool. I can't wait till we get a bit more rain in the months to come and to see how it looks, because it's quite big. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed with that herd of elephants because they've all disappeared. So I'm wondering if we go up a bit further, if we'll see some more. They're slowly feeding in this direction, but it's taking a bit longer. So let me just try and get another view of these ones, if they want to be seen. Let me try go up. Little elephant. There. I'll go up a little bit further. Here we go. This is a much better view. Charlotte, I suppose I'll never really know the answer to this, but maybe little elephants get growing pains like children do. They must of some sort. You definitely see them biting and gnawing on things, so they must sort of get teething problems too. You see it with lions and leopards, them chewing on all sorts of things like you would see, your dogs chewing. So I definitely think they get some kind of similar pains to what we get, but I don't really know how they would test for something like that. Perhaps. It must be very difficult. Elephants are huge creatures. Even when they're born, they're massive. They're bigger than most mammals. Here you go, trying desperately again to feed on the sickle bush. Now, that's not an easy branch to try and break. It's also not the tastiest of leaves to eat, but I suppose you've got to try a bit of everything. And there's also lots of spines on that tree. So careful you don't prick yourself, little elephant. I don't think your skin is going to be that tough just yet. Putting just one ear out. Isn't this absolutely adorable to watch this little elephant as it learns its way in life?
Our beautiful little juvenile immature Bateleur here, still near its nest. Well, actually it is walking a little bit, so hopefully we'll actually see it walk back towards its nest. That's on the left of your screen. Just there. Gorgeous. Now these guys will only get their adult plumage around 6 to 7 years old. Takes about 4 molts. It looks so innocent, especially when it looks straight at us. Look at those eyes. Stunning. Now it should be able, oh look at those eyes. It should be able to fly, I would think. It's usually about 120 days or so old. It should be able to fly. And it looks like all its down feathers are gone. Awesome, awesome. Innocent thing. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to all our lovely innocent viewers, our kids. Thank you for joining us. But you don't have to leave. You can continue to watch, but we're going to invite everybody else to come on board with their questions and their comments using the hashtag WildEarth or the YouTube chat stream. Those big eyes look so gorgeous, just such innocence. Clara, Delilah, you'd like to know why hasn't it moved far from its nest? That's because it takes a long time for these birds to actually grow and become adults. It takes a long time. In fact, they're very long-lived birds. And they will, like I said before, it takes 7 years for them to get their adult plumage. And their molting process is quite complex. They molt their tail between about 1 year and 2 years old. And as the years go, they continue to molt in various different stages over years. It takes them a long time to mature. So it'll still hang out, and after about 7 weeks, the adults will stop attending to it or as often as they usually would. And it'll start fending for itself. But that nest is still home for a little bit. Hi, Saoirse. You're from Ireland. You'd like to know how far can this bird turn its head? It's not like an owl where it can turn a whole lot round. I can't say degrees wise. I'd say maybe 200 degrees. 180 would be from one side to one side. I'd say maybe 200. Certainly not like an owl, which is close to 360. Very curious and a lovely find. I'm sure we can keep tabs on this little individual.
It's a little Steenbok ram, We've seen a couple before, but this is a beautiful example of the male with these long horns. Well, long being relative, you know. When you look at them compared to the length of his ears, you know, if they as long or longer than the length of his ears, and we say, oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful big adult male. But also that camouflage, I mean, I don't know how far zoomed in you are, but yeah, we've got a nice zoom in there. From where we're sitting, that's about 90 yards, and I cannot see the animal. The only reason we saw it was standing in the open and then went and lay down behind that little clump of grass. So that's obviously the distance that it feels comfortable with us at. I'm trying not to move a lot. I'm just having a look through binoculars at what it's doing there. Yeah, it's nice and relaxed. It's very, very aware of us, but totally relaxed. So I've actually seen these little guys digging in the sand to get to roots and tubers. Hello. And we've got another little antelope here. If we see it, we'll stop and we'll point it out, called a grey duiker, which is marginally larger than this little guy. And they also dig. They'll dig a lot, especially as it starts creeping further and further and further into the dry season, which we're in now. You know, we're in the dry season, but the real crunch time comes for animals is coming out of the dry season into the summer months. So September, October, because we can sometimes only get rain late in November, even into December. And by that time, temperatures are absolutely climbing into the 40s. So then your water requirements for these little animals start skyrocketing. I've yet, in my entire time in the outdoors, working in the bush, I've yet to see a Steenbok drink water. So they're getting all of their water requirements. Ava says in winter. Yeah, I think in winter, if I heard that correctly. So I've yet to see a Steenbok drinking water in my entire time that I've worked on reserves. I've never seen one drinking. So they're getting every single drop of their water from their plants. Okay. So I got the whole question. Sorry, our comms is a little bit bad where we're sitting here. So Ava asked, can animals get the flu like humans? That's a very, very interesting and a tricky question in some ways. You get different strains of flu that affect different organisms in different ways. So not the same kinds, and obviously this whole COVID thing has raised the question of diseases that animals carry and how it goes into humans or vice versa. And that is called zoonosis. So in other words, if you get a disease that's peculiar to animals, and it doesn't have to be widespread, it could be a particular animal, and if that gets transferred to humans in a way that it actually survives and affects humans, that's called zoonosis. And that's very, very interesting. But yeah, certainly animals can get pneumonia. I mean, you can take your dog to the vet if it gets pneumonia. It'll be a different strain to what the one we get, I would imagine. I'd have to check that up. But yeah, animals can get the same kinds of sicknesses that we get. Oh, he's nice and relaxed here. Fantastic setting. I'm actually hoping to find some small mammals out today, maybe batted foxes or Cape foxes, and an extreme push, maybe pangolin, but I think we'd be very, very lucky if we got that. But beautiful scenery, wow. we're going to head over to Eric in the meantime and see what he's got for you.
Thanks, Dylan, and good luck with all of your smaller mammal searches. I hope it goes well. You can see we're still on the riverbed. We've got that really white-looking bird perched on a branch, looking very, very regal. So it's an African fish eagle. I'm sure it's a bird that many, many, many viewers recognize. And the reason why we decided to come down into this area is just below where it is perched is the last remaining surface water of the river. And so there might be catfish, there might be some small reptiles that this fish eagle might be trying to take advantage of. And we're not getting to the point where we can see the water yet, just because we don't really want to disturb the eagle. I think if we move closer it might fly away. But when we last left you, we were in search of what brought those hyenas out so early on in the afternoon, and so far we haven't found anything substantial, no tracks or signs of anything. And so they might just have moved extra far in these cooler conditions, and that could have been them returning to one or two of their communal areas. We're not too sure of many den sites within that part of the reserve. This impala just comes straight down the bank towards us, and it is getting followed by another one. So it looks like it might just be two impala rams that are sizing each other up. But just look at this one straight in front of us. Look how alert it all of a sudden is. It came more out into the open. Its ears are pointed forward. It's looking in one spot. The other one that was right behind it hasn't really, or isn't behaving exactly the same way, but it has noticed its behavior. And so this one is... it's looking around, but it hasn't quite seen what this other one has seen. And there's no distinct alarm call yet. It looks like it's moving in for a slightly closer look. Maybe they caught wind of something. Maybe they smelt something. The wind is channeling straight down this riverbed. If you look, the ears are pointed forward, but its nose is up. And it's smelling. Now they've both turned around. Very interesting. It could just be, in these cool, overcast conditions, these impalas do get quite nervous, and there's lots of noises that are happening. There's lots of rustles. If there's a strong gust of wind, they might catch a slight little sniff of something. And so, usually if there's something that they're very concerned about, they keep alarm calling. I think it is still worth checking out this river. It does bend around. I'll wait for him to move off, and then we'll drive forward. They are looking very, very nervous, but it is only two of them, so maybe they're feeling slightly nervous being just so little. Dina, you're asking if the tiger is one of the predators of Africa? It's not. It's only found naturally in the wild in Southeast Asia. So India is probably the best place in the world to see tigers. Very, very close relatives are lions and leopards, and both of those predators we find within this reserve. And if those impalas have smelled something, maybe it could be one of them. So I'll try and not disturb this little fish eagle over here and just see. You never know, it could be something coming down to drink, it could be anything. But because those impalas didn't alarm call at anything, I don't know if it is something that will be too interesting. This fish eagle's still perched here, so let's have a quick little look at it. The fish eagle's just taken off. There we go, you can see it. Okay, so sometimes these big eagles go after some small little mammals, and I think Steve's got one of those little mammals that these eagles might take. apparently. We're just waiting to get Steve's picture up and running. In the meantime, you stuck with me. Sorry about that. Just to show you exactly what the water is that we're looking at. I mean, it's a tiny, tiny little puddle. Just to show you there, it's literally the last remaining water. There was a stage where it was really nice and big. I thought it might even carry throughout the whole winter, but I think it's going to dry up in the next couple of months. And so with this being the only surface water, I mean, there's a good chance that these predators in this area come down and have something to drink. And that's why I was watching those impalas very, very carefully. But I haven't seen any tracks or anything, so maybe they just got freaked out by something. Okay, I think we might have Steve back and running, so we'll send you across for a little update from him.
Thanks, Eric. Yes, we are back. And just had to go sort out some sound issues. I was in final control for a moment watching the Steenbok in the Kalahari with Dylan. I've never seen a Steenbok with horns the size his had there. And you look at this is the typical kind of horn length that we find for Steenbok here in the Kruger, and the greater Kruger, that is. His looked almost Oroby-like. They were so big. I was quite impressed. Beautiful little critters. This one is, we're quite, whoopsie, there he goes. And play a nice sort of theme tune as it runs off into the light. There we go. There's some nice, lovely light. That's the freeze, the freeze and flight behavior. Dylan was talking about their camouflage, and they're incredibly camouflaged and secretive little animals, preferring these open areas and having to be very vigilant. So dainty. When you see a baby Steenbok with a mum, it is the cutest thing. They are so small. And another ruminant, one of the smaller ruminants that we find. But they can't afford to eat any bulk. They have to eat the most nutritious, juiciest, highly nutrient-rich plant parts available. And as Dylan pointed out, they will dig and scratch with their hooves. And they even go so far as to bury their own dung. So those of you who haven't been watching over the last few years will know I found a few Steenbok diggings on walk. One time I actually found what I thought was a Steenbok scraping, stuck my hand in and came out with wet fingers of wildcat scat. So not the best moment in my life, but I've learned to use a stick now, just in case. So the mouth parts are very small. You see how small they are? You compare the mouth parts of a Steenbok to that of a buffalo, and the Steenbok's able to get the tiniest little leaves and forbs and plant parts, which it needs, but then its requirement of nutrients is much higher. Paisley, I'm actually not even sure how to age a Steenbok. You find them, they're never very big, so the only way to really go by it is if you find a younger male and the horns are a bit smaller. But I really have no idea. You don't often find a young Steenbok, or it's difficult to identify whether they're young or not. But when they're really small and with mum, they're normally hidden and quite concealed. But I honestly don't have any idea how to age them. Being such a small animal, they don't show any growth in the horns. And if it's a young female, and if you don't see next to an adult, you wouldn't really know. You've got nothing to compare it with. Oh, there we go. It's ripping up grass now. Wonderful little foraging out in the open areas of quarantine. They go through sort of very short bouts of eating, about 20 minutes of quickly gathering food, and then they'll go sit somewhere and ruminate for about 20 minutes. And that cycle will sort of continue on throughout the day and throughout the night. tasty. Tell me when it's almost behind you, Beaks, and if we need to move. It's some wonderful light, isn't it? On the face. So regarded as being monogamous. All of our small little antelope species are regarded as being monogamous. Sometimes see them together, but often just on their own. Male and female Steenboks defending their territory against others. Little glands on the face there as well, underneath the eye, preorbital glands. Together with urinating and defecating with the scratching. It's a primary means of territorial marking. What a wonderful sighting of this little Steenbok. We're so blessed to be able to see them in their natural habitat, going about their natural activity, and Trish is doing the same. She's got an Impala ram.
Yes, this Impala was looking a little bit concerned earlier when we saw him. So let me check him out, but as you can see, he's still busy chewing. Did that come from him? Someone else. You heard that little that sounded like an alarm call, but this Impala is not reacting to it. There's other Impala around that are not reacting to it. Let's just be quiet, enjoy the view of Impala, the clouds, Chitwa Dam, and listen for a little while. It wasn't an alarm call. It sounded strange, kind of like a cough. I do hear some humans nearby though, so perhaps it was a human coughing. Let me just reply to Rex quick. Copy. Never mind, he wasn't. AFM, it was this morning. I'm on Chitwa at the moment. Back and out, and it was some gift for him. When he went out yesterday and he found Tandy for us. It was just awesome. Such a nice welcome gift for him. And I don't hear anything else, no other alarm calls at all. So I'm going to go around and check the area where I normally see tracks for Kuchava. It's always a good starting point, a point you know you've seen an animal around and you can find a track there. And then take it from there. But things are very, very quiet here. I did hear that alarm call. I didn't imagine it. Hope not. Sometimes when I move my jacket, it sounds like an alarm call. But very relaxed. There's a whole herd of impala a little fur behind us in the block, and they would have definitely reacted to any kind of alarm from another animal. There's also a waterbuck nearby. River, you'd like to know, how do animals recognize different species? Alarms. That is actually a little bit of learned behavior in growing up and learning and listening to different alarm calls, but also it's like different people speaking different languages. We know that we cough like a dog, or that when someone speaks a language you don't know, you can hear it immediately. But you can still hear when someone's in distress, which is essentially what us crying or screaming, well, crying more. An alarm call is kind of like screaming. So we all have these distress calls, alarm calls. It has a lot more to do with pitch and tone than it does have to do with whether they understand each other. So if a bushbuck hears a certain pitch and tone of a snort from impala, it may not know, oh, this is that impala I met last week or whatever, but it will know that is an alarm call. That relationship is a little bit more finessed when it comes to birds and mongoose, or birds, I can get birds and mongoose have different types of alarm calls, or monkeys, but they have had a relationship built on alarm calls for a long, long time.
We found a lion. He might look familiar because it was the same male that we were staring at this morning. But he's not quite as active and walking around and doing soft roars trying to find his coalition member. I don't know where the other male has actually gone, but he is just recovering and having a bit of a nap. Is that... Sorry, I was just taking a closer look. Are those flies on him, or is it just dirt that's covering his body? I'm sure you can see those tiny little black dots that I'm talking about. Or has he just been lying in paper thorns? I think it might just be paper thorns that he's got on his body. Sorry, I thought that he was covered in flies, and I thought that's quite revolting. But he doesn't look particularly clean after he's been rolling around in the sand. But you can see leg out to the right. Must be a little bit uncomfortable from all the feasting on buffalo hide that he has been doing. But it is nice to see that they haven't walked off the property during the day. And I think if we stick it out with him for long enough, we might catch him up and on the move. But for now, he's going to do what a lion does best and sleep for a few hours. We've actually been quite lucky. We haven't seen too many resting lions. They've normally been doing something, so I suppose we can't complain right now. But he didn't even acknowledge that we had arrived at the sighting. He hasn't really moved much from where we left him this morning, about 150 meters. Lots of birds moving through. I think we might even be lucky enough if we sit here for a bit, we might see the bird party that's on its way. I did hear a grey-headed bushshrike calling just a minute ago. You may have heard it too. But you can see just how big these boys are. They've got really big paws when I looked at their footprints in the sand, and hopefully I will be able to show you a footprint in the next day or so. Much, much larger than the two younger boys that we had been seeing. There we go. Finally. Hello, good afternoon. Rolling over. Look at that hairy chest. He's actually got quite a bit of mane on his chest. Now doing a bit of a stretch out. That can't be comfortable. It always amazes me how lions lay like that in the most compromising positions, but to them, it's quite comfortable. And it looks like that leg is going to flop down. It would be nice if he also got up and went for a drink first, but he's going to have to change his route and head back west if he wants to find any water that's close by. Or you can head to Ndlovu Dam, which is right at the eco-training camp. That's also fine. I'm sure everybody would enjoy that. You can hear all the birds, the hornbills now. Sounds like there's some helm shrikes of sort as well. But we'll see what else comes on by the sighting while we watch this lion enjoy his sleep. Right, off you go back to Ngala. Eric is staring at some waterbuck.
We are back at this waterhole, seeing if we can see any sign of any mammals coming down to drink. Well, not only mammals, I guess, any interesting birds that have come down this way. There's one big hippo, and there's a family of waterbuck who are on that little island, which I found quite interesting. Quite a odd little place, and I mean, they would have had to wade through at least a channel that's about 2 meters long for them to get onto that island. And I think it's just me with this level of anticipation. You know, there's lions in the area, there's these waterbuck that have found themselves onto a very, very isolated little spot. And I'd just start to think, you know, have they seen or got scent of those lions which have made them get onto that island? We've only just arrived. I've spent some time looking in the bushes, and I can't see any clear sign. They are all pretty relaxed and feeding, so it might just have been a spot that they decided to rest in for the day. It almost looked like one of the adults walked to the edge of the bank, and it looked like it wanted to jump across the water, and it weighed up its options, and then it decided against it. We'll maybe keep an eye on them, but I mean, it's really nice because we're starting to get 1 or 2 little rays of sunshine at the moment, which is cool. So it's not really warming up, but it's providing this beautiful light that comes through and escapes the clouds every now and again. One big noticeable thing at the moment that's changed from this morning is the direction of the wind. And so the wind was mostly blowing in a northerly direction, which is basically facing straight away from us, right up the dam. And it's changed almost to 90 degrees and is blowing much more from the east to the west. So much more in line with the way that we're facing, blowing straight onto our faces. And that will probably influence the movement of these lions at a later stage today, if they haven't started moving already. And they'll want to move into the wind, so things like these waterbuck don't become aware of them as easily. So it's definitely something to consider. Once we start moving away from this waterhole, we'll definitely be doing that. You can see that waterbuck on the right hand side there is very, very small. It's got a very, very sweet little face, very fluffy. It is rather a rather good looking individual. And just see those big white bums. So once that female starts getting chased, that youngster's got something white. So with that big white lump, that big round ring at least, it's a nice follow me sign. And I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of different follow me signs on different mammals, and this waterbuck is one of the most pronounced ones. Oh, you have seen the male. I was just about to show you the male there. So there's a big male waterbuck with very, very long horns. He's beautiful. around about this time a couple of days ago when you were with Sean. I suppose it's a little bit earlier than that, but I mean, those lions started vocalizing already. And so even though we're not really seeing too much, we've got these beautiful waterbuck, that hippo in the waterhole. It's always nice, especially at this time, just to switch off and listen to see if we can hear any alarm calls or if those lions have decided to vocalize and get their day started. It's one of those days where anything could happen at any time. And I mean, we saw those hyenas moving around at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is quite unusual. I'm sure these lions, if they wanted to, would also be moving around at odd times. And just see it almost looks like the sun is beating the clouds at the moment. There's one or two really nice patches of blue, which bodes well for the next couple of days. And we might get some beautiful blue skies in the next couple of days. And so I think we've spent enough time here at this waterhole. We're probably going to move on and head into the direction of where those lions were going. And so we'll move on from here, I think.
Guys, we've got an Aardvark. We've got an Aardvark. It's just behind these bushes here. It's just it's coming out on the right-hand side of these bushes here. I was actually looking for pangolin tracks over here. We're looking at all the birds flying. It'll be coming out on the right-hand side, to the right of this bush clump now. See all those birds are sitting on that bush there? It should be coming out there soon. Just keep watching. There it is. You said, Chandra, you got it. You see where the birds are landing? We got an Aardvark. We got another Aardvark. And what? Yeah, I'm so excited now. Yes, this is so cool. What got our attention there was the fact that these birds were up and down, up and down, up and down. And Chandra and I, we've been looking for these. And we decided, let's just come off and go have a look. And so it's just beautiful behavior. Another Aardvark is in quite long grass there. And like, what's that old joke? Like, how do you find an Aardvark in the long grass? Satisfying. This is just amazing, man. This is brilliant. So it's super long grass, so very, very difficult to see. But wherever it's digging, you'll see the bird. There you can see his ears and his back going there. As that Aardvark moves and digs, then these birds just tuck into all those diggings straight behind him to see if they can catch any little things there. Wow, this is just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Oh my word. The wind is perfectly in our favor. He doesn't even know we're here at all. It's blowing straight from him to us. So all those birds flying is actually only there's some very, very bright blue starlings. From this distance, they look almost black. Those ones frequently will follow Aardvark, but those other lighter grey. And we actually found pangolin tracks in this block as well. That's we saw the bird party went in. The pangolin tracks are quite old, so it won't be there won't be a huge point in following them. But then the next bird party down, here's an Aardvark. So this is just really, really good to see her. And I think we touched on it briefly the other day when we had that incredibly lucky sighting of two. Is that they are typically nocturnal animals, but they're going for ants and termites. And the ants and termites cannot tolerate high heat conditions, so they'll normally be underground, deep underground in their burrows in summer, or their burrows, and then they come out in later afternoon, closer to the surface, or actually on the surface, depending on what species of termite and ant we're talking about. So there's a shift in the prey behavior based on temperature, and that causes a shift in aardvark and pangolin behavior, because that's their food resource. So if it's coming out early afternoon or during the day, that's when they'll be active. And if they're coming out late at night in summer when it's very, very hot, that's when pangolin and aardvark will be active. So in the summer months, to see an aardvark out like this in broad daylight is almost unheard of. Thelma has just asked if they... Sorry, I'm just going to turn my radio down. Apologies there. Just so there's no interruption there. So Thelma just asked you, so if their prey is so small, why are their ears so big? And that is literally the thing of the wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. It's like, all the better to hear you with, my dear. And that's exactly what it is with them. You know, with having those big ears, they're incredibly sensitive to sound. And they can actually detect prey like that, but then their nose is incredibly sensitive. But also, if you look at the comparison, and this has got a direct bearing on the ears, and I'm just kind of like talking now off the top of my head here. If you compare them to pangolins, I'm saying, well, okay, pangolins don't have big ears, so they're living in the same environments. There's leopards, there's lions, there's hyenas, all these things that can kill them. So, you know, if we're using it for anti-predation, you know, well, if a pangolin doesn't have big ears, what's the point? But look at an aardvark. That's a big meal. That's a decent size 20, 30, 40, 50 kilogram meal, depending on, you know, how big or old male, female it is. So that's a decent meal for a lion. So, and he's got his nose down, his head down, his eyesight isn't great. Those ears, I would guess, are brilliant defense mechanisms against potential predators. So by keeping his ears up and going, and that's why when I was saying the wind is in our favor, it's always really, really important that you try, and sometimes you can't get it right, but that you try and get the wind coming from the animal that you're following, whether it's an elephant or an aardvark or whatever it is, from them to you. It gives you the best chance of being able to watch the animal without any disturbance. He's obviously, so walking around in this little patch of grass over here, or this vast patch of grass here, there's numerous signs of aardvark having been active. Not all fresh, but there are lots of signs. So this guy has obviously been sitting in that one spot quite a bit of time now. So he's obviously got onto an ant's nest there, a colony of ants or termites, and that it's just busy foraging on. Chandra and I, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stick with this. But in the meantime, I think head over to Taylor and see what bird she's got for you. Oh, this is amazing, man.
Very envious that you managed to find a aardvark. Very cool. Now we're going to play a little game. I'd like to hear from all of you what bird you think that this is perched up in this dead tree. Hashtag WildEarth. Get your answers in very quickly. While I'll give you a moment. You can have a chance to send your answers in. I don't know when I last played a game with all of you, but it's one of my favorite birds. And we're actually lucky. We see them quite regularly around this particular area. I don't think I've ever managed to put them on camera for you. I think they always fly away at every moment. But it's a medium-sized bird. I'll give you some clues. It's got a sharp beak. It's also got sharp claws or talons. Don't you fly. Stay there nicely. And they're typically seen in pairs. I think that that's more than enough of a clue. It's very nice with the blue sky and the clouds. Very scenic and a nice silhouette. It's tricky. This is like a level 3 question. I'm trying to guess this, but that little crest on the back of its head might be able to help you. Ah, well done, Greg. You got it just as it flew away. It is indeed an African hawk eagle. Lovely. But unfortunately, it has flown away. What actually drew us to here is we were sitting with a lion who's not too far away. We heard this bizarre pterodactyl-like sound. Well, I thought, what on earth is that? And then I thought, hey, hang on. Maybe it's the hawk eagles. But I think they're nesting. I'll show you the nest. I'm just going to drive a little bit further ahead. It's in a knobthorn. So there's a pair of them that fly up and down here all day long. There's actually 2 pairs, different pairs that we see. One very far down at Kruger Corner, which is one of our main entrances into Pridelands. And then this pair that's sort of up here, I think if I go around just a little bit more, we should get a nice view. I haven't actually seen them sitting on it, but it just looks very much like a raptor's nest. Where did we have the nice view? Is that fine, or do you want to... Okay, Gert is telling me where he's got the best view. There? Okay, we'll start there, and then we will maneuver. But... there we go. Oh, goodness, it's actually really pretty for silhouettes with all these little cumulus clouds. So there we go. There are a bundle of sticks up in the tree. And it doesn't look like much. No, it does resemble a red-billed buffalo weaver nest, but this is not typical of a red-billed buffalo weaver nest to build it sort of on a fork of the tree. They normally build it right to the edges of the branches. And what you can't see from here is that it has indeed got a flat top. And I think that they've been using this nest maybe for years and years. But it's because it's quite dense, or quite thick. But yeah, I think I can get a better view. Let me just move around a little bit. But they're always roosting up in the dead trees here. I think if I do this and then we look back, maybe. Let me try. Just pull off the road here. Just pulling off. No, hey? I don't think so. You're not going to really be able to... Oh, you can sort of see it a little bit better from the distance now. But very chuffed, Greg, that you were able to get that. So there we go. Just behind all those leaves, you can see that that's where whether they have an egg now, I'm not sure. But this is quite exciting. So, something to keep an eye on. And hopefully we'll start to see them sort of rebuilding this nest, or perhaps sitting on it and keeping some eggs nice and warm. Control. So we start to see vultures and things nesting now. And yes, a lot of the birds of prey are going to start nesting at this time. The warbirds, eagles obviously come down to breed, so they breed in sort of rainy season. I think tawny eagles also start to breed now in the coming into the drier months. So to answer your question, I would say yes, a few of them. Oh, Impala, there's 2 rams that are just running around here, but they're going to run straight in the direction of that line in a minute. So maybe we should go around the other side and wait there. Oh, there's so many birds though. See, Gert, can you see the red-billed horn? No! It just flew away. Just my luck. What have you got? Can you hear? There's also the, oh, there's another hornbill there. Little grey-headed bush shrike that I'm going to try and catch for you at some point, but I just can't figure out where it's sitting. Let me look for it. Right. Off you go to Steve. Steve is also doing a bit of a bumble this afternoon. Maybe he'll find something fabulous.
Thanks, Taylor. Lovely topic, birds. Always a very big fan of birds. And we're actually in the area where Trish was showing you that young Bateleur just before. It's quite special. We've had them breeding here last 3 years that I've checked. But what we found on our way through this little block is tracks of a leopard from yesterday. Now, I'll tell you it's from yesterday because it's on top of the rain. Okay, so when in doubt, have a little measure. Okay, if it rained on top of this track, the track would look very different. But also, you can measure it just to make sure. Oh, hang on, which side? That side. If you're not sure if it's a male or female, always take some form of measurement out. Okay, so this is the front foot. There's the back foot. Okay, let's just measure it. This knife is 10 centimeters. So it's about 8 centimeters. So it's a female. Very easy to see. Sometimes you're not sure, so you get confused, but just measure it. Just like a lion versus a leopard, you might get confused, so just measure it until you get that down. And the front foot of cats is normally quite wide. The back foot is a little bit narrower. And what this track indicates here, the front foot, back foot being quite far apart, there and there, indicates she was walking quite quickly. If a leopard's stalking, the back foot will step directly on top of his track. Directly on top, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and there's little 3 lobes. Beautiful leopard track. So the slower she's going, the further back this track will be, and the faster she's going, the further forward that will be. Does that make sense? I hope so. So when Thandi was found last night by Rexon, who's none of you have probably met, found over there, and that's where we had her. And so she's come out of here. So we're going to work serious, see if she's come back. Maybe we find her club. And I believe I'm going to be linking over to somebody who's going to show you a close-up.
Oh, sorry, everybody. Oh, my goodness, sorry, my phone won't stop making a noise. Apologies for that. But here we are with our lion. We literally just came on around the corner to where those impala are. I think that's why this lion is actually sitting up. Those impala were not very far away, and I think they might have drawn his attention. So he's just sort of just sitting, listening, looking. He could have also heard something in the distance. But those eyes are growing heavy again. Look at his mane, though, as well. Look at how much he picked up spider webs on his chest and sticks and all sorts of things. That's not very tidy at all. The wind is also starting to blow a bit. Interesting. I'd like to try and follow him this evening, so I'm going to linger around in this area and not let him out of my sight for too long. It'll be nice to figure out what their routes are too, because they haven't, since I've been at Pridelands, they haven't actually spent too much time on Pridelands itself. They sneak in the evenings, they do a little roundabout, and then off they go, either into Jajani or into Kwenga, which is the reserve just to the east of us. But once we figure out which animal pathways they favor, which roads they like to sort of come on, it'll make it a lot easier for us to try and find them. I think that's the exciting thing about following animals around, is learning their routines and then trying to anticipate their movements and catching them when they're up and doing all sorts of exciting things. But I think they'll spend a bit more time here, especially if they know that those young males are here, and obviously they do because they would have chased them off of that kill last night or early this morning. So they're going to make their presence known now, whether it's by scent marking, or perhaps we'll be lucky enough that he does a big roar for us. That'll be the most efficient way to let anybody know in the area that it is occupied. It would obviously be beneficial if his coalition member or his partner was here too. But also not uncommon for lions that have formed a coalition to split up and to do their own thing. I suppose they can make their presence known a little bit easier that way if they split up the work. Oh, he's quite regal. Lots of scars on their faces, though, both of the boys. You see not too much pigmentation on their noses. They're not too young, these boys. But they just like I was saying this morning, when we're looking at their teeth are in really nice nick. Their canines are not too blunt. They're not very yellow. He's doing a bit of a contact call. You're not going to talk for us again? Like I said, this is a very chatty lion. He doesn't seem to like to be left on his own, whereas the other male's up and out of sight at any opportunity he gets. There's been a lot of chatter in this little tamboti thicket that this lion is sitting in. I wonder if there isn't an owl or something perched up in the tree. Come on, boy, do one big roar for us. I don't think he's quite sure what to do with himself right now. Because I don't think anybody is going to hear that. It's soft. I think you can all barely hear that contact call. And he keeps sort of staring in an easterly direction, and I think that's where... Sorry for the pause there, but how was that yawn? That sounded like a bear more than a lion. That was quite enjoyable. Right, let's hope the next time he opens his mouth wide like that, we will hear a big roar.
We've come back into these big, beautiful plains where we actually started our morning this morning to see if we could see any sign of those lions. And we just saw the giraffe, which I think might be the same giraffe that we saw a little bit earlier. But when we were sitting at that waterhole, I mentioned how we were getting this occasional ray of sun every now and again, and it just seems like the sun has come into this beautiful patch of open blue sky, and it's providing us with such gorgeous afternoon light, especially after being in such, I guess, overcast conditions. To see this light after 2 days of no sunshine is really beautiful. And I mean, these giraffes are lighting up so nicely. You've got the beautiful dark grey clouds still in the background, so probably about 70% of the sky is still overcast, but it does look like it's going to be a gorgeous morning tomorrow morning. They're feeding away, so another mother and a youngster. There's actually a few of them that are quite far away into these dense knobthorn thickets. But I've actually just seen they are flying away now. It's a bird. No, I think they're gone. That's a pity. Oh no, right here. I only see them on this branch. So this goes into the conversation that we were talking about a little bit earlier on this morning, where I was mentioning how what I find fascinating a lot of the time is the change of colors that some of these birds go through. And we'll see if we can get there. There's the starling. If we pan further to the right-hand side, there's that big black bird with a long tail. It's called a long-tailed paradise wider, further to the right. Only see over there. Cool, we've got it now, so hopefully we'll show it to you. We'll get really, especially in this light, it's beautiful. So that very, very long tail, and that one on the right-hand side is a male. The ones on the left-hand side. Okay, so we'll sit here for a little bit longer, see what happens, but we'll send you across to Tswalu quickly.
So we actually moved off the vehicle a little bit closer to this Aardvark. He's completely oblivious to our presence, which is exactly what we want. He kind of moved away a little bit, and now he's actually angling back towards us, which will be incredible. and we're standing up at the moment completely downwind. If he does approach closely, I don't think he will, but if he does, we'll actually just stand. We won't move or anything. It'll be the most incredible sighting ever. This is just, I mean, I just can't believe how lucky we've been with these animals. And it just shows how important these big areas are for conserving them. Firebird has asked a very good question. Do aardvarks hold territories? There's still quite a bit of debate about that. We know that aardvark will fight. In fact, one of our guides actually saw 2 aardvark fighting a couple of days ago, which is incredibly rare to actually see it. And he got photographs and everything, so they'll fight. That's probably most likely over females. But, you know, we're not entirely sure if there's actually any real territorial aggression going on there. But they are certainly aware of other aardvark in an area. I've actually been walking on Tswalu where, from where I was, I could see 3 different aardvark at the same time. And that in itself kind of raises questions as to, well, yeah, maybe they've just got a home range. Maybe it could just be purely dependent on food availability. In other words, resources. If there's good resources, maybe they're more tolerant of other aardvark. Maybe as food resources diminish, they become less tolerant. Difficult to say, but a very good question. Look at this. This is so amazing to watch this. Like I touched on earlier, it just shows the importance of wild areas or natural areas for conserving species like this. And that goes for, and not just in reserves, outside reserves. There needs to be a tolerance for animals off reserves as well. JF has just asked how much do they actually eat? They have to eat tens of thousands of termites and ants in a night. So they are constantly on the move. It's a big animal. It needs a lot. And I mean, their protein packages that they're eating are tiny, tiny, tiny little things. Well, it's ants and termites, we know. So they've really got to be ingesting a lot. Oh, this is just amazing. And as I was saying, you know, we need more tolerance for wildlife, not just in reserves but off reserves. That goes for aardvark, it goes for wild dogs. You know, there should be a high tolerance for predators. And too often it's like, you know, the little antelope and things, you know, it's okay having them, but not predators. And that kind of like mindset needs to change. You know, aardvark, if you look at it in many areas, you know, people get frustrated because they dig so well, so they dig holes in roads, they'll go under fences, that kind of stuff. But, you know, they are an incredibly part of a system, important part of a system. And, you know, that... I'm going to give you a very quick analogy. Imagine you've got an office at home, okay, and one day someone takes all the pencils. Well, you can still work, no problem, but it's an inconvenience. Next day, someone takes all the notepaper. You can still work, it's an inconvenience. Then someone takes your printer away. You can still work, but it becomes progressively more and more difficult. And you'll eventually get to the point where they take your laptop away, and then you're like, okay, well, now what do I do? And that's a kind of an analogy that I try to use for ecosystems, to say, you've got all these component parts, the aardvark and the plants and the birds and the insects and whatever. But as things start getting removed, it becomes more and more difficult for that system to function the way it should. And like I say, and that goes for wild dogs, it goes for elephants, it goes for white-tailed deer, it goes for a raccoon, it goes for a shrew, it goes for a fox. You know, all of these things have their place. And it's really important that we try to look after these, or at least have a tolerance for them. Next has just asked a difficult question, easy and difficult question. How do you tell the difference between a male and a female aardvark? Well, the male has testes, so you can actually see those, but you're going to have to have an aardvark in the hand. You're not going to see it easily. There are some people that even claim that the females tend to be like a little bit lighter in color. I've yet to be able to convince myself of that fact. In terms of size, there's a huge... Oh, he's coming out. there's a huge range in size on Aardvark, and I think that would be very, very much area dependent. So to go purely on a side and say, oh, males are bigger than females, or vice versa, there's not a lot in there. So the easiest way is if you've got an Aardvark in the hand. We've had some really, really good Aardvark research done here a number of years ago by a lady called Nora Veyer. Yes, and she did a whole PhD on Aardvark and the effects of climate change on Aardvark. It was really, really interesting stuff. And so then obviously we got to measure and weigh these animals, and it's really, really, really interesting. And it's a huge privilege to actually be able to see them up close. What we're doing here is just, this for me is just next level. This is just, we're on foot watching one of the most incredible animals in the world. Do you know that there used to be, historically, there were 4 species of them. 3 went extinct millions of years ago. Their lineage has never continued. So this is what we call a monotypic genus. It's the only one in its genus. And it's also an exclusively African genus. It's what we call Afrotheria. There's nothing else like. They stem from Africa. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm flipping. This is amazing to see this. Sorry, I get excited about these things, but who can't not be excited about being on foot, watching an Aardvark, just being an Aardvark. And look at these birds. Look at that interaction of the birds coming in, foraging behind it as it's going, it's digging, and the birds are right there. Here's a fascinating point as well. I have never met anyone in my entire working career that can tell me they have seen a baby Aardvark. If you go out tracking, and these are with the best trackers, they won't even show you. And I would challenge someone to say, okay, here is a baby Aardvark track. So where are these babies? They've got to be around. I'm not saying they don't exist. But yes, this is incredible. This is incredible, guys. Wow. And look at the condition. He is round. He's round as a barrel. It means he or she is doing so well. Obviously getting enough food in this environment. There's good grass cover. This grass cover is critically important. It's not important directly for the Aardvark because they're not eating grass, but it's critically important for the ants and termites which live within these grass swards. And so as long as you've got good grass cover, you can have the termites and you can have the ants, and then you can have the Aardvark. So now the closest he came to us was about 45 yards he came to us, and he's slowly turning away. He's obviously got a fantastic food resource here because he's just making these like little loops round and around and around in the same area. So if it moves further out, I'll show you a piece of a termite mound. But I think while we have this amazing, incredible opportunity to actually view an animal like this, I think we'll stick on the animal. Yes, this is incredible. No ways. You can't get tired of seeing this. It's impossible. Yes, and I'm so chuffed as always that all of you are able to join us and share this. Flippin', Jandre, this is incredible, man. Well, Jandre's got like a big grin on his face here as well. So we're gonna stay here, and we're just gonna keep watching this Aardvark because it's so special. But in the meantime, head over to Steve and admiring the best skies in the world, the African skies. My opinion.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I'm just going to allow you to enjoy what we are currently enjoying.
Manzi heading out on right.
painter girl says every evening, she says this is the best sunset that she's ever seen, and then, well, we surprise you again, don't we? Little catchphrase I think I started the other day. We are with you from dusk until dawn, or from dawn until dusk. Marvellous scenes like this unfolding daily, everybody. I hope you all have the opportunity to witness these things in your own lives, not just with what we provide on the show. Different time zones around the world, I try and witness the sunrise and sunset every day. Wonderful, truly wonderful experience with those purples coming through. Photograph is absolute heaven. Feel free to send through any one-word tweet you might have about how this makes you feel. Hashtag WildEarth. And possibly then also spend a moment to go and enjoy the view from Pridelands.
Well, from the sounds of it, the Sabi sand might win this evening, but that is ours with our beautiful silhouetted trees, and it's quite cloudy. Not too many colours yet. I think that it might change. Maybe we'll get some pinks and purples, but we will have to wait and see. But we are still here with a lion. We actually just heard some hyenas, very vocal in the distance. It actually sounded like towards the hyena den, towards the Pridelands clan. I'm not sure why they were making such a noise. I was tempted to go and investigate. And this male lion has popped his head up now. But I think we'll just stay put. I was hoping he was going to get up and then walk in that direction, then we would have followed. But he's not ready just yet. We will see. He's been gearing up for a big roar as well. I almost feel like I want to call this lion Chatty Cathy, with the way that he moans all the time. He then went back to sleep for a bit, where he continued to do these sort of soft roars. Oh, there we go. He's a trained lion. You just ask him to talk and he talks. Not really, of course. Come on, boy. The world is watching you and they want to hear your roar. He must be able to hear something. You can see how intently focused he is. So I wonder if those soft murmurs are him responding to the other male lion that we just can't hear. Say something, lion. No, he's gone all quiet. TT for sure, I'm not exactly sure. I've never had the privilege of examining lion vocal cords firsthand. I don't think that there'd be too much difference between them. Lions, male lions, of course, roar is a lot deeper than that of the lionesses, but it is difficult. I mean, I think I often say, oh, it's male lion roaring, when in fact it is a female. So I think every now and then, it's not particularly easy to sort of tell the difference between the two. But I believe you had 11 lions roaring all together the other evening, which is quite incredible. That hasn't happened to me in a very long time. Oh no, I talk nonsense. We did have a sighting with lions all roaring together. So I take that back, not too long ago, which was quite spectacular. And that is something. I remember the Olololo pride from the Mara Triangle in Kenya once all roaring around me, and that was honestly out of this world. It was actually a deafening experience. My ears were ringing afterwards. Now's the time. I keep hoping that if I just sit quietly, he's going to start, but he's not ready just yet. I don't think that other male is too far away. Just keep hearing a lot of upset birds, but I mean, the franklins and spurfowls were going at one point, then the crowned lapwings had left the floor and were flying in the air, squawking about. So it feels like something is going to happen. I don't know what. It's a nice spot to sleep, though. Shaded from the sun. Not that he really had to worry about that today. It's been very much overcast. Actually, now is the first time we've really seen a fair amount of the blue sky. I think tomorrow should be a nice day. Still quite chilly. I'm definitely going to try and follow up on these boys. I'm also just trying to hear if I can hear anything else. But my hearing is nowhere near as good as a lion's. Very, very still out tonight. I think I'm going to brave it out and continue to sit here. And let's hope that this male lion's next move is to get up and start a patrol.
So we're still watching this Aardvark feeding. He's just obscured behind a bush at the moment. But yeah, there you go. It's coming out into the open now. Got him, Chandra? Okay. It's just marginal. This animal is so relaxed. So relaxed. It's just absolutely fantastic. Look at that camouflage again. You think there's an animal that can weigh, like say 30, 40, sometimes 50 kilograms. That would be like on the exceptional side of the range. But in that grass, as you're seeing him, he disappears. In fact, he looks like a mobile termite mound in some respects. And that, that coupled in terms of anti-predator behavior, those massive ears listening out for danger, very, very well camouflaged, and this exceptional ability to dig very often gets him out of sticky situations. I know, so he's just kind of coming and going behind these bushes here, so we must just be patient. There you go, there he's out in the open there. And I've had some viewers saying if there's any chance I can show them that Aardvark testes, I think that's going to be slightly challenging. But you never know. The whole time those birds constantly in attendance, constantly. There's obviously, good competition there as well, because any big worm or grub that gets unearthed, they'll be onto it. So here's something particularly fascinating. There's a plant called Cucumis humifructus. Cucumis humifructus. I don't even know what the common name is. I've never seen it here, but the seeds of that plant have been recorded in Aardvark droppings. And what's interesting about that plant is that actually the fruit forms underground. So the thinking there is that the Aardvark actually will eat the fruit of that. Now, it's regarded as a termite anteater, but there's some really, really interesting work that's been done on this subterranean cucumis, which is kind of the cucumber family. Like I said, I've never seen it here, but you never know what you could find. There we are out this morning, potentially a new plant. Tracy has just asked, do Aardvark venture far from their burrows? Look at that beautiful sighting in the open there. The answer is yes and no. It would be what our definition of their burrow is. They tend to use the same burrow for a number of days in a row. If it's a female that's got a youngster, that can be used for a couple of weeks at a time before moving again. But then you also get these temporary burrows that they'll dig that they could be in for one night. But so, if it's a permanent one, they probably wouldn't go too far from there. But within their area, their movement would really be governed by food availability. And if you have an aardvark resident in one area, it's probably dug many hundreds of burrows, in a relatively short space of time, over a couple of months or years. So the habitat or an area that an aardvark lives in, you probably find it's got a whole pile of burrows that it's aware of. So yes, it may not be very close to the one that it exited from, but it'll almost certainly be close to a burrow. And in this terrain where the sand is so incredibly soft, it's just pure sand, they can dig super fast. Butterflies just asked, do aardvark make any noises? I have yet to hear an aardvark make a noise. I'm not saying they can't. But I've yet to hear aardvark make a noise. What I'll do is I'll actually ask the guides that actually witnessed those aardvark fighting the other day and see if there was any kind of sound coming. But a thing that often gets said is like giraffe. If you take giraffe as an example, leading on from your question there, people often say giraffe are silent. Giraffe are not silent. I've heard a female giraffe make the most incredible growling, borderline roaring noises, defending its calf from cheetah males that actually caught a calf once, and this giraffe would come running in with its head low down and making these. I'd never in my life heard sounds like it coming from a giraffe. So there's an example of, I don't want to say, aardvark are silent because I haven't heard them. Doesn't mean they're not. That doesn't mean they are silent. They could have some kind of vocalizations. I'd be very surprised if they couldn't make any kind of sound. That just. This is just what an afternoon, eh? Yes. MGN has just asked, why are the birds following the aardvark? And MGM, that is the simple reason that they're doing that is to get food. So that aardvark is going for ants and termites, but what you typically find, and pangolins as well when they're going after ants, is they'll find a good feeding spot, they'll dig it up, and then, as the colony of ants or termites becomes on like high alert, they're putting out like a lot of turpentines or formic acid, these kind of things. So you find that the palatability goes down for the aardvark, and then they'll move on to the next one. But it's also unearthing other things at the same time, little grubs, caterpillars, things like that, and that's what the birds will be going for, as well as they'll be feeding on the termites as well. We're going to quick link to Taylor.
Look at this. Well, we got what we wanted, that's for sure. Wasn't that magnificent? He did that fairly quickly. He didn't even groom himself. He didn't do any of the normal things that lions do before they wake up. He was just sort of poised, sitting there quite nicely, and then he hopped to his feet and immediately let out a big roar. Right, where are you going now? We just have to turn around. I'm just going to reverse onto the road very quickly, and then we should get a nice view of him. Scent marking already, are we? There we go, so we should be able to see him now. And now we're getting a real sunset too. No, you're just repositioning. Okay, that's also fine. I can't tell if it's Gert's stomach or my stomach that's making sounds that sound like a lion responding, but I don't think that it is. There you go. So he hasn't moved too far. I think he's going to wait and listen if anybody responds, hoping that the other male is going to respond so that they can join up at some point. Otherwise, I don't think he would be so vocal. But there we go. Now you can see the sky starting to turn and the clouds catching the last of the light. Can you hear the hyena? There is a hyena that's calling, not too far away. I'm surprised that you can't hear it. See, that sounds like it's coming from the northeast. So it's probably just those hyenas that have maybe feasted on the leftover buffalo carcass that have just laid out for the day and now starting to get active. Now there's another one calling. Sounds like it's coming from the den or close to the den. Yeah, very exciting. Can you really not hear that? Oh, that's so sad. I'm sorry that you can't hear the hyenas whooping in the distance. Next time. You can see him just sort of listening to those calls. Oh, if only we knew what they were saying. So TaylorMade, we've experienced a bit of a cold front, and it's pretty much come and gone now. So this is the tail end of the cold front that we've received. So we had some very windy days, some very cold weather. I think these clouds are sort of saying to me that it is going to start clearing up. We might have one more cloudy day tomorrow, but I think after that we should go back to our normal winter, which is typically clear skies, beautiful blue skies, chilly mornings but very warm days. I don't see any cirrus clouds, which is an indication that there is bad weather on its way. We did have those about 4 or 5 days ago, so we knew that there was something brewing. So everything seems to be going back to normal now. But not rain clouds, not anything sort of building. But I think on Mariepskop it's a very different story. It's some very sort of low-lying grey cloud. They almost look like nimbostratus clouds. And I think if you were standing on the top of Mariepskop or on the Drakensberg in that area, you would have been quite damp. Luckily not for us. We actually didn't get too much rain, although it would have been nice. You might also hear another vehicle coming on through. There's some students that are prepping for their apprentice field guides assessments. So this is again going to be another opportunity for them to get some experience with a notorious big cat. And it's always quite daunting. How do I park the car? What am I going to say about the animals? And then before they know it, it becomes second nature. Oh, thank you very much, Lion, for not making me reposition. Can we have a closer look? I want to see if there's any interesting features on this lion's face or on his ears, just so that we can get the difference between the two. Because I actually noticed both of these male lions had a beautiful black stripe going right through their mane. His left ear is quite tatty, and there seems to be a significant nick in it. And then on his left side of his face, he's got quite a prominent too. But I think that this is quite typical of male lions, is to have scratched up faces, as we see.
This Aardvark is just putting on such a magical display for us. I mean, this is just incredibly special. While he's there, Jeandre's just going to keep looking. I actually want to find an example of these termite, some of these subterranean termite mounds that little guy's walking around digging out. I will find one shortly. There was one close by to where we were standing just now. Anyway, if I can't find one, I'll get one just now, because I really want to show you actually what he's doing. He's coming out on the side of the bush now. But this is just such a privilege to watch these animals without any kind of impact bias or any kind of interference or anything. It's super chilled. And there's just so much sign. I'll show you just now. There's so much sign of Aardvark activity around here. So this is a super productive area, and that would obviously, you can look at the condition of the animal. It's in excellent condition. And I'm going on that, if an aardvark is, battling to get food, you'll actually start seeing the hip bones very, very easily. So, this one is just round as a barrel. It's really good. Soon the birds are going to stop following him. As the light levels start dropping, then it becomes a little bit sketchy for the birds to be following in terms of predation. So I reckon they've probably got another half an hour left of foraging time behind this aardvark. This is just like, I don't know what that means, but that means good. I had such a beautiful example of a termite mound that a aardvark has dug out. Now I can't remember where I saw it. There goes my... But I'll find it and I'll bring it down to genre there. Okay, we're going to just stick around here a little bit longer, and this is just amazing to watch.
That's lovely. To look for another den would be awesome. Now the sky is just beautiful. Starting to run away from us just a little bit, the light, but there's this pink cloud that I would love to show you. We just got to get a little bit further ahead so we can see it. It's just been doing magnificent things, these clouds today. Can you see it there, Darby? Because I think I still need a gap. Yeah. Oh, there's a small gap. Here is a big gap. They look spectacular. Spectacular. But the actual bulkiness and the movement of all the clouds look amazing. We were just saying that there's something so strong, bold about them, yet if you went to touch them, you wouldn't be able to. I quite like it. It's almost like a city in the sky made of fluff. Have a bit of a listen. You just heard some arrow-marked babblers going off there. And as Taylor had said to you before, these clouds do look like the tail end of a good front. Tomorrow should be clearer. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. I love to just stare at the sky, watch the sun set and all these beautiful clouds. It really does something for your soul, just like being out here in the bush.
Yes, indeed, it has been a wonderful evening and bodes well for this weekend. Weather-wise, it's not as cold as it has been, but the rain has really hardened up the roads, everybody. I've been checking this whole area for any signs of Thandi coming back, and there's nothing apart from the ones we showed you. They're now soft sand. Golden hours. One word tweet was golden hour. Magic. Sorry, you said magic. Yes, I heard that. Magic. That is a great one. Sensational. It's probably one of the nicest sunsets I think I've seen in some time, and I do watch many. It's a daily ritual. We are forced to look at the sunrise and sunsets out here. It's terrible, everybody. I quite enjoy it, and I love sharing it with you, especially the quietness. Just switching off and allowing the birds. There weren't actually that many birds, though, surprisingly, making any noises, but in the morning there's normally quite a few. Okay, this is decisions with regard to where to check, and I'm going to go out. No. Oh. There's doubt inside my mind about where to go now to see if we can maybe pick up on her, but it has become a bit too dark to follow her towards the den, but knowing whereabouts it is would be great. But it seems like andBeyond Ngala's jumping into the action, and I'll show you a sunset too.
I believe there's been lots of picturesque sunsets on offer this afternoon. We've also got a very beautiful one, especially with the trees in the foreground, the beautiful colors over here. We still haven't had much luck with the pride of lions that we've been trying to track the whole afternoon, but we're still giving it a bash, and especially because they tend to be nocturnal. They like to move around in the later parts of the evening, and so we feel like the longer we wait and the more patience we give them, hopefully the more rewarding it is for us. So we are still hovering around this area, switching off every now and again, looking for anything like alarm calls or tracks on the ground, or maybe even hearing. I mentioned a little bit earlier, we were really hoping that they'll start vocalizing and we might be able to hear them. So just to give you an idea, waterhole where we left is on the left-hand side of us, or the right-hand side actually, and the wind is coming this way. And so we're thinking that their movement this evening is moving straight in this direction, if they are going to be moving. And the nice thing about this area is there's just such an abundance of animals that come to rest for the night. Because it is largely open, there's lots of places for them to come and settle down in, which does attract the movement of these lions. So we've still got our fingers crossed. We still have got almost half an hour to provide you with the goods, so hopefully the lions do their part and appear on the road for us. Has been I was listening to some of the sightings that you've had with other guys. The Aardvark sounded absolutely incredible. Really perfect day for some of these rarer animals to come out and play in the later parts of the evening. We're just losing, but now you can see, I was talking about how much more blue sky we're seeing this evening. I mean, there's almost no solid patch of cloud. It's all sort of broken up and dissipated. So we're definitely in for a beautiful morning tomorrow. I'm very excited to see what tomorrow will bring, and just see those dramatic clouds.
I think tomorrow is going to be an unbelievable day, as this evening has been. I mean, isn't that just the perfect safari? Aardvark, lions, elephants, giraffe, all the wonderful creatures. And I think it's going to get a little bit more exciting. He hasn't roared again. He hasn't actually let out a murmur since you were last with us. And we definitely didn't hear a response in the distance. Will we be lucky and get a second roar from this male? What he is listening to now is some very angry elephants in the distance. They've been trumpeting and not too happy. There we go. Nice big stretch. Scent marking once more. You can see how he's just urinating straight down onto the ground, so they don't always spray it up into the air, and then scraping with his feet. This is going to be tricky because he's going to walk right behind the vehicle, going down into a bit of a mud wallow. We should be able to watch him here, but I don't know how we're going to get through because the elephants have actually pushed down an entire tree. There we go. You're going to watch him just as he walks around. Hopefully he'll come into frame in just a second. There we go. It's a bit difficult filming right off the back of the car. You can see he looks a little bit stiff, but he's been laying down all afternoon, so he should loosen up in just a minute. Okay. Oh no, that's a bit more than a scent mark. Oh, please don't be downwind. There is honestly nothing worse than lion feces. It smells absolutely horrific. I didn't even get to go through the hyena feces we wanted to go through. Now we've got all of the scat to look at. Oh no, I fear we may be downwind. So we will try and follow him. We just need to find a way to get around. Is he going to roar off? Here we go, have a listen. This lion is giving me serious trust issues. You start to roar and then you stop. And then you... Shame, that must be very frustrating. To constantly keep moaning like that, looking for a response, and getting absolutely nothing. Perhaps his partner just needs a bit of a break, some alone time. I know, I get that. But still staring in the same direction. I wonder if we go bumbling about on some of those roads through the marula trees and knob thorns, if we may find the other lion just lying about. Right, I think we will reposition, but while we do that, off we go back to Ngala Private Game Reserve, where Eric has chosen a sandy path.
Good luck, Taylor. I always know how bad those lion dungs can be. We have decided to come down into the river just to see if there's anything around here. It was starting to get quite windy up at the top of the riverbanks down here with all of these trees, these very tall trees. It's quite nice and protected from the wind, and so you never know. Maybe they decided to come down here to have a bit of a rest, and so we'll just have to see. They have been, this pride of lions I'm talking about, have been moving incredibly long distances at night in the past week or so. I've been on the receiving end of a tracking mission where Roan was driving in the morning. We tracked them. I think we started tracking at about 7:30 and we finished and eventually gave up at about 1:30 in the afternoon. So we spent a whole heap of time trying to look for them. Throughout the night they walked over, I think we covered about 15 kilometers trying to find them, but they obviously didn't walk as far as we did because we lost the tracks and would have to do a big loop around. We found the tracks again and they just kept on going and going. So hopefully if they're still around tomorrow morning they wouldn't have walked as far as they did the other day. It's just amazing to get the opportunities to grow as rangers and develop skills that we wouldn't get the opportunity to do in this time. To be able to track lions for half a day is something that I've never done before, and it was really cool to get that opportunity. And hopefully our skills just start growing and increasing as we spend more and more time by ourselves. Okay, so we'll carry on checking this riverbed. If we see something, I'm sure you'll be right back at us. In the meantime, we'll send you across to Dylan.
That is absolute sheer beauty. Yeah, and look at that silver golden light on this grass. And how's that? What an afternoon. You come out, we actually go and it's like, it's very seldom that I have like a set plan. Sometimes I normally do have a plan. I say I don't, but I kind of like, but I try to play it down because you never know what you're going to find, what works and what doesn't. But anyway, so we came out here this afternoon, genuinely, let's just take a nice relaxed bumble along and see what we can find, and do some cool things. And next thing is birds, next thing is like an aardvark. And then this, I mean, it's just this is why we do these kind of things. So this is exactly why we do this, because it's just seeing these kind of things is just good for a person. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. It's just. Yeah, and it would be amazing, you know, if you could actually be here and experience this on the ground, eh? And it's just, at least you're able to share it from our perspective like this. And a large part of it goes, Jandre, you know, you're doing a fine job on camera there, but did you get any new birds today, Jandre? No, he says definitely not. So we're going to actually just carry on ambling along. Like I said, there were actually older pangolin tracks there as well. Jacqueline just said how stunning these colours are. Totally agree. So sometimes the best thing is just to be quiet and enjoy it, rather than like me just gabbling away the whole time. Omar, who's 6, has just said, if I could show you the pangolin the other day, why can't I show you an armadillo? Omar, you have no idea. I would love to be able to show you an armadillo. The challenge with that is they don't occur in this area. But why I'm loving that is a species I would dearly love to see as well. I think they are remarkable little animals. There's a lot of similarities in terms of kind of like body design to pangolins. And yeah, so if I could show someone an armadillo, I would. But unfortunately, we're a little bit far away for that. But what amazing, and those giant anteaters in South America as well. Oh my word, I think that's got to be like yay high on my bucket list, is those huge, gorgeous giant anteaters. I think that's got to be one of the most amazing looking animals on the planet. A giant anteater, yeah, I think that would be a good one. Oh, this is beautiful, eh? So good. I think we're going to link over to Steve and Djuma. Let's see what they got that side.
Thanks, Dylan. Well, we're watching the last of the light fade. Can always be added a bit more sort of colour by framing it with some water. A marvel of nature, everybody. Free of charge. Happens every day. they want what sounds we can hear. White-browed scrub robin. Various insects that I don't know the name of. Trying to hear what else there is. There is a little sound. One of our smaller birds. Alarm calling for the night. Not sure which one it was. These moments of quietness with beautiful views are a great time to reflect on one's day, on one's life, I suppose, as well. These moments are very important. You're caught up in the busy madness of the world. And there's always peace if you look for it. And beauty. I was holding a few thoughts of gratitude in my mind there, things I'm grateful for. Try to do that daily. If you're not used to doing that sort of thing, it's very simple. Anything you're happy for, grateful. Family, your dog, your home. Absolutely anything. The sandwich you had for lunch. And the radio that goes off when you don't want it to. Sorry about that. Close friends. The one fashion you had. The smallest of things that we often forgot. The breath coming into our lungs right now for me is very clean, fresh. Okay, well, I've no doubt Trish is on a mission. I wonder what she's looking for.
I am on a mission, and I'm on a mission to find an owl tonight. But can I help it but stumble upon a chameleon? This is the 6th individual that I've seen in about as many days. So they're all over the place. There were 2 at Gallego Pan, there was 1 in Impala Plains, there were 2 in Zoe's, and now this one on the western edge of quarantine. I think that tells us a lot about what chameleons do in the cold weather. They hang around. Now, a couple books do say that chameleons will find a crevice to shelter away into. Perhaps it's not cold enough yet for them to do that, but we've just found that in the midst of where it's really cold, we've had a cold front, chameleons are still out and about. They're just a little more packed together, all is in, like the sky is, and they tend to be a little bit better hidden. But I must say the last 2, this one and the one yesterday we found, were quite exposed, but the weather was also just better than it had been when it was totally freezing. Really, really happy to see them out and about, and obviously we have a really healthy population of them, which is just awesome. Benny, you'd like to know why animals don't freeze to death? That's actually a very important question. Animals like mammals are endothermic, so they use glucose and other molecules in order to keep their body at an optimal temperature. For us, that's between 36 and 37 degrees Celsius. That's why when you're dead, you are stone cold. And reptiles have the ability to pause. Hello, look at that eye. Ability to pause their metabolic processes. So you need the energy to feed your metabolism, which creates your warmth. But reptiles can actually pause that or slow it down in the case of the reptiles that we have here, and find a way to just wait it out. That way they're not using a lot of energy, so what energy they do have, they can use it to just ensure that their most important processes can. That is the bottom line. Also, we all need enzymes and proteins to be able to function. And the thing about both those molecules is that if they get frozen, if they get very cold, they can still function once they leave the temperature they need. But once they overheat, something called denaturing happens to them, and then they cannot return to their functioning state. So the worst thing that could happen is that you overheat, all your enzymes and proteins denature, and basically it can't return. If something is frozen, getting very, very cold, it is more likely for it to return to a working state once it warms up. That's essentially what happens to meat when we cook it. Raw meat cannot return to being raw once it is cooked, but when it's frozen, it can return to that unfrozen state when it's in its normal room temperature state. But it cannot revert back once it's been cooked, because all the proteins have been denatured. Gorgeous sky. I'm glad that we're seeing so many, and we can really tell that our populations here at Djuma are healthy.
Owl that's perched on the very, very top of one of the trees on the riverbed, and it turns its head. We are in infrared, so that's why you can see the reflection of its eyes, and you can see it's just basically one color. And because we're in infrared, we're not disturbing it at all. So it hasn't flown away. This light isn't bothering it at all. And you can see it's turning around and it's looking probably for something to hunt. So as it turns, it will be looking and, more importantly, listening for any rustling in the grass. And so they've got incredible hearing. And that's practically how they hunt. So they come up to a nice high vantage point like this, and they look for little rodents, potentially little birds that are moving on the ground, and they swoop down, and they are incredibly silent hunters when they're flying. And so most animals won't even know that these owls are coming. And then it's too late, those big powerful tannins latch on. And this is a spotted eagle owl, and it's one of the first times I think it's the first time I've seen it with viewers on Safari Live. We mostly have got a Verreaux's eagle owl along the side of the river that we see quite regularly. And then we get the two little pill-spotted owlets and the barred owlets that we've seen for sure. So that's 4 of the potential 5 or 6 owls that we get here. Another nice little challenge to try and find, which also only comes out at night time, is an African scarped owl. It looks like it might fly. See, it's still a little bit unstable, so it's exposed to the wind at the moment, and so maybe it just felt a little bit off balance. You can see the slight ruffle of the feathers on the side of the face as it turns. And the dramatic clouds. We're getting 1 or 2 little splashes of rain every now and again, but it's nothing too threatening. So we are in infrared because it's very, very dark, and apparently it's still quite light in Tswalu, and they've got some giraffes, so let's go and see them before it gets too dark.
just admiring the setting, just that magnificent scenery, this beautiful journey or herd of giraffe moving across our front over here. They were actually standing underneath a massive sociable weaver nest just now, probably one of the biggest we have on the reserve, I reckon. And dwarfs any of the others we've seen so far. But I'm just stunned with the beauty of this whole scene. And these seem to be mostly, in fact, from what I can see here, we're quite far away, and I'm looking through the bins. I'm only seeing males, big adult bulls as well as youngsters. And I'm going on what I can see underneath, the working parts, as well as the tops of those ossicones are bald, which indicates that it's male as well. But what a landscape to see giraffe in. It's like Africa at its best. So we've yet to touch wood. We've yet to have lions catching giraffe on Tswalu. I know some of our colleagues down in Djuma and Ngala, those areas have seen that. We haven't seen it yet. And yeah, that could just be because there's a lot of other much easier prey around. Things like zebra, eland, hartebeest. Yeah, these are all bulls as far as I can see. So you get these loose associations, which leads on to another point there is, when you're thinking of herd animals, sometimes you get giraffe and they like massively widely spaced. They could be, one could be, there could be another one a kilometer away. And you will say, well, they're not really in a herd. But if you think about it, take an animal the size of an impala, kind of like waist high to you, give or take. Well, if they're in thick bush, they need to be close together in order to be able to communicate visually, olfactory, scent, that kind of stuff. Well, if you're a giraffe and you're standing at this height, well, it really doesn't make a huge amount of difference if one of your group is half a K away, because you can see it clearly. I mean, our field of view over here, to the dune crest way behind the giraffe is probably 800 meters. 700 meters. So, even if you're not seeing giraffe all standing in a group like this, it doesn't mean that they're not in contact the whole time. But these associations can be very, very loose. That being said, they can, these guys could be together today, and in a week's time they could be all split up or in smaller groups. Yeah, these are all bulls, all bulls. Just the setting is just, it always leaves me, with a sense of wonder. For the Kalahari, specifically, but just generally for Africa, and then, for wild places across the globe. I mean, and they're becoming more and more difficult to find, true wilderness. That's me getting all philosophical there. Again, also that depends on what your definition of wilderness is. Wilderness can mean your back garden if you make it. Frankie, these has just asked, how tall are the average giraffe? These big bulls like this. Okay, well, there's some youngsters here, but these bulls can be well over 5 meters in height. I mean, that's a big, big animal. That's a really tall animal. The females are a bit shorter. But yeah, 5.5 meter bull, no problem. Giraffe have got to be, of all herbivores, for me, got to be one of the most peaceful animals to watch. There's just something so graceful, so gentle about watching them. That's just Fantastic. Some people also say, and just out of interest, you can see those ones eating low down, they're actually bending their necks, or one or two right at the back there. So I don't know if Chandra's on them. I think we're watching those ones moving across that grass there. But just out of interest, some people have said, your females tend to feed lower down and your males higher up, but it's not true at all. Canada has just asked a great question, and it leads exactly onto what I was saying, or I was just starting to say about the height that they feed at. So, I've heard people say, well, if a giraffe's feeding lower down, it's got its head bent like it's feeding lower down, it's probably a female. The males tend to feed higher up. Yeah, they feed higher up because they're taller. But but other than that, there's going to be no difference in terms of mostly the brows that they can reach. So the question that Canada has just asked there, are the giraffe in Tswalu shorter because the trees are more stunted? There's less taller trees. No, the answer is these giraffe are the same species of giraffe that you get down there. The brows, although the trees that we're seeing in many areas that we drive are a lot shrubbier, and they a lot more stunted. We do also have a lot of taller trees, but remember, giraffe just bends its neck and it carries on feeding. So even if a tree is at shoulder height, less than shoulder height. I mean, some of you may have seen. In fact, Chandra and I watched one very, very briefly this morning. Unfortunately, we didn't get to get it on camera there, but we actually watched the giraffe bending down and picking up bones. They bend down and they drink water. So, they can actually access forage that is quite low. And obviously there's a comfortable height for them to reach. If they can stand next to something and feed on it, well, that's first prize. But, these smaller trees in these environments, that certainly doesn't have not that we've seen a noticeable impact on the actual height of the giraffe. I think we're going to just enjoy this incredible setting in front of us, but head over to Taylor and the lions on that side.
But just a little bit of light on this lion as he lays in the long grass. He did roar one more time for us, but he did it quite quickly that we couldn't capture it. And now he's just been, again, just sitting and listening. I'm very excited to figure out who these male lions are. They've definitely come from the east of us, so maybe from the Kalahari, maybe from the Timbavati, who knows. So now that I've seen them both, we'll start searching the interweb furiously to see who these boys are. Now, I have already been contacted with somebody that thinks that they know who they are, which is very exciting. So I'll have some chats to them, and hopefully we can play investigator and see if the photos match, which is quite exciting. It's always nice. And those bellowing roars will be heard for miles and miles. Oh, I can hear another roar now. There we go. Finally, a response. You probably can't hear it, but that's why he rolled over so fast. Finally, he's worked out where his coalition member is, and will probably get up any minute and march on down in that direction. It's what he's been trying to do all afternoon, is get the other male lion's attention. He actually sounds like he's could be right at the eco training camp. So we might have a surprise visitor this evening, but I'll update you in the morning. What an exciting evening it has been. Literally the A to Zs of animals, nice roaring lions, and a big yawn to end the evening. I hope that you all sleep well or have a great day. But we'll be doing this all again tomorrow morning. So from all of us, cheerio, and we'll see you on the Sunrise Safari.